How's it going, Ultra Buddies? Durian and Gankun here for a review, and it should be a fun one. We got a Trigger Triple R, I think, somewhere hiding in here.
Yes.
We're just doing them in order today. I don't have any fun groupings for us, but I think we'll just get started with it. And here we go. Into Givas, we got more Starter Deck 3 reveals, right?
Yes. So yeah, let's call out some of these will be coming out earlier with the Starter Deck 3, Omega to the Future, and then the other half will be part of your regular BP4 updates.
That's right. So Givas, I think, is like Ark's buddy or something. This is just like a maybe you throw in for Geed or for Belial, but I think unless we see more Givas, like that's pretty much it.
Yeah, it's a popular character, so maybe we see some more Givas. Maybe
level
not.
7. No, I don't
Could
think
be
so.
maybe a level 5.
I think a good level 5 would be fun.
Some stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely you could put in like Belial deck. I'm still not sure because it's against power types, which are pretty common.
Yeah, power types are one of the most common for sure.
But still, 10K. It's just a little interesting because like gold, I feel like is a little more consistent because it can bump to a 17K.
Yeah, the 17 is so good, and speeds not being that common helps a lot. So I think Golba's going to win out, but if you love Givas, put him in there.
Still put it in.
And some people are doing like a Belial Arc type of idea. I know you brought that idea to me a long time ago, and like that could be a fun little nod thematic wise. So next is you, Givas. So a scene card from the starter deck, round 3. When the scene enters play, if you have Arc, you can reveal the top 5 cards of your deck. Put one Ultra Hero card from among them into your hand and send the rest to your discard. What are your thoughts on this, Gankun?
I mean, I haven't really played a lot of Arc myself, but it's still one of those, it's a level 3 effect. You can use it to block things out, but Arc already does that with his 18K. But for a level 3 effect, I've seen worse level 3 effects. You do get a card from it.
Yeah, I guess it is an improvement on the Hikari level 3 scene, almost like exactly. Yeah, I mean, I think this is one of those cards. It's kind of interesting. I think it would depend a lot on the meta for me to play it, because Arc, like you said, it does a good job of getting rid of your opponent's scenes anyway, so I don't really feel like I have to do a scene lock type strategy. But this is going to be one of those cards that I think helps you kind of close out the games and like find those missing pieces that you need. But being around 3 scene means it comes out like pretty late. You can't, like, you're not really gonna play this with Decker or something that needs to get your triples online early, because you're already gonna have everything online by round 3.
Yeah, we'll have to see if this finds a place or a home in any mono Arc builds. That being said, this one's also part of the Omega to the Future starter deck, so I think it's still actually a good scene just to learn the game.
Oh, definitely a great scene to learn the game. I'm excited to see the starter decks, and it might be that the new Arc in the starter deck or the Omega like benefit a little bit more from these late game type things, and like so I think it'll be good. I just don't know that I'll play it in my decks right now.
It's nice to have these options. Sometimes these little meta things ends up making this card helpful.
Yep. I'm going to skip to Arc since we're talking about it. This is a new double Arc Spiral Barade, which when we first saw this, I was like, wait a second, isn't that Blazar's move? I was very confused.
Yeah, they do have a crossover episode.
Okay.
So there's some
that makes sense
there.
And so it's a triple only effect when it enters play. If you have an Arc with a power in your discard, you give this character plus 1,000. If you have an Arc that's armed in the discard, you give this character's battle opponent minus 1,000 BP. So it's a 1 turn 19,000 when you play as a triple, which is very strong, and you can swap it around with Galaxy Armor if you want. So I think this card is pretty solid. I'm not 100% sure I'd play it still, and I'll talk about why after you give your thoughts, Duncan.
Yeah, I think you pretty much nailed it with this one. It's a triple effect, so you do have to play it in an Arc heavier deck. and it is a speed type, so it works well with the Galaxy armor. It does have that Blazar-esque effect of doing like an on-play kind of a BP down to be a 19k, so it'll win its on-turn play, but it's still 17k. So wanted to get your thoughts on how this fits in ranks amongst your other art cards.
Yeah, I think this one will be interesting. I probably have to revisit it a little bit because of Dinah, but at least from my experience playing Arc, a lot of times you end up playing towards the end of the later part of the game, you're playing 2-3 doubles, and you really want to be swapping those in and out to get plus 1000s with the Solace armor, I think, or BP boost up with the other, the cards from BPO2. And those are going to be doubles, and they're going to be stuck as doubles. I'm not super interested in swapping one of my Galaxy armors into one of these unless it's to finish the game. Because if I just keep 2 Galaxy armors, I can loop Solace armors for plus 2000 anywhere, plus 1000 and plus 1000 anywhere I want for like every turn, which gives me like a lot more versatility than having a 19,000 for one turn that isn't useful after that. So I think it's like a really strong finisher card that can kind of like work it around, but it's a little tricky because it's like if you don't kill it, it's like I'd rather have 18,000 or a Galaxy armor there.
I feel like it's definitely a card maybe you don't want to run 4 of, but you run 2 of, and if you have a mill heavy deck, like you mix it Arc Dinah, and one of those doubles you mentioned becomes a triple, and you also just milled a bunch of cards.
You
then
swap
to this guy.
That's exactly what I'm thinking. Is you could play it as a 1 of or a 2 of, and Dinah increases the amount of cards you mill a ton. And if you just get it in your drop, you pop a level 1 underneath with Dinah, make it triple, swap this one in for a surprise 19. That could definitely be a strong move. So we'll have to revisit this one. I think like BPO4 gives us a lot of fun tools to explore with decks. So I'm pretty excited. So moving on, there's the Ultraman Blazar Spiral Parade, which is what I'm used to, right?
Yes.
Which is what we're used to. So this one is a double or triple effect, which is nice for Blazar. When this character enters play, you can exile a card in your opponent's discard from the game to give this character's battle opponent minus 1000 BP at our double rare for Ultraman Blazar. What do you think?
So I've thought about this one a lot. It's a interesting mix between Blazar has a lot of good level 3 options, so it can be hard to find a place for this one. But it plays an interesting role where the other double R that gives a BP grade down one is definitely going to win that turn. This one, 1000 is usually you'll make it an 18k, so that'll win most lanes still. Yes, it's not as strong, but might be just enough. In exchange, you get that exile. I feel like maybe one in 5 games, that exile could make a difference.
Yeah.
Maybe that 1 in 5 is enough. And I do want to call it could be used as a double, so it becomes a 13k double, which is always a nice number for Blazar. And maybe once you throw in Dinah, this will become a 17k later, which is nice to think about for Dinah cards. You want effects that work off of doubles, that way you don't feel bad if you later upgrade them compared to like the other art we just saw.
That's true. Yeah, pretty much sums it up. I think I may not have said this before in a video, but I value exiling the discard very, very low. It's like almost a non-factor for me because the decks, at least the decks that I know that work through the discard, tends to mill enough that it doesn't matter if you exile what they need. Mainly I'm looking at Mebius, but
yeah, I would say it's still maybe 1 in 5, 1 in 6. Like there are cases, but you're right. It's not often enough that people see exile and think it'll counter Mebius.
Yeah,
there might be a game where it helps, but it's not going to be your go-to move.
I do think though that the other graveyard based decks like Arc and Rosso Blue are a little bit more susceptible to this. So if those decks are very strong, then I think we could see a little bit more value in playing exile cards. But for me right now, I just think they're kind of like that's a non-effect, and for the most part, I feel like I'd rather play vanilla here, which is kind of sad. That's at least my opinion on it.
I think the fact that it can become an 18K on the on-play turn helps it a little bit over vanilla, but I don't disagree where you're more often than not going to benefit from the vanilla over the 1 or 2 games where that exile make a difference.
Right. I mean, the trade-off is the 18,000 for one turn, whereas the vanilla, if you play as a 2/3, it's going to always be 13, whereas this guy's only 13 on the turn it comes play. But it looks pretty, so
yes,
that too. All right, let's move on to Ultraman Arc. Speaking of him,
this is a starter deck one.
Starter deck card.
That one.
Yeah. Do you want to read this one?
Oh yeah. So this one, it's another. We were just talking about exile, so it's a good segue. When this one you play as a double, so specifically a double, it'll exile 1 card from your opponent's discard area. I mean, that's a lot of criteria for an effect that we're not a big fan of.
Yeah.
I mean, it has to be a double, so yeah, be 1/2 or something.
So there are some nice things about this, which is one that's at 11K, double power, and it's an armed type. So Arc has searchers that search power or armed or speed or armed, and basically like you had to kind of play both, but now it's opening up like maybe you could play like only armed and then like a power searcher or something like that. I think that probably doesn't play out because of this one that we saw, which is a speed type that needs powers and arms. So you probably want to play everything anyway. But yeah, I'm kind of not in love with this one just because we said just because of what I said before. Is I don't think this is a real effect yet.
I think less so than the discard effect, because unless you're playing a 1/2 later on in the game, if you're playing this like turn 2, they probably don't even have anything worth discarding yet. But you do bring a good point about that armed typing. That might be the key factor in the future when you try to put together an arc deck. If you just need more armed level 2s, 11K double, level 2 armed, you just forego the effect and you just play just for searching and the other arc effect.
Yep. All right. Pretty much nothing else to say here, so let's move on to our Ultraman Omega, another starter deck card. And this one is level 3 speed type, double or triple effect. When this character enters play, you can draw a card. When you draw a card from this effect, you discard 1 card from your hand.
It reminds me of the Blazar ability. I think we have a Blazar in common that does something very similar.
Yeah. That's true. And I think it's almost identical to that card, although that card I believe is armed.
Yeah, I forget, but I mean, it's a starter deck uncommon, nothing too flashy, but it should be a good card to introduce people into the mechanics of the game.
I think it's a really good card for a starter deck that lets you kind of see more cards in your deck, so you're more likely to try to like put together your strategy that you want to put together. I think that's one of the draws of Ultraman, is being able to like build the triple, get your cool effects off. So anything that we can do to help make that a little bit more common will be nice. This is a bit of an aside, but this card reminded me that I really wanted to explore Zero Beyond decks that discard cards so that like I could get more cards in my hand. That's not really something I've messed around with, so put it on the to-do list. And we'll move on. I think, do you want to save the triple rare for last, or should we just go into it?
Let's save that for last, because everything after that's going to feel.
Okay. Yeah, sorry, we're gonna skip around a little bit. So Geed, why don't you read this one, Yonkin?
Yeah, this one's not a kaiju killer like we have for level 1s, but it is as a double against kaiju battle opponents, plus 3,000. So it's good against kaijus, but it's awkward. Yes, it's a 13K double, not the worst number. It's a 16K double against kaijus, which should beat all.
I think it beats pretty much anything that doesn't get Bellio boosted.
Yeah. Yeah, it should beat all double. Even like it should tie with some level 7 Belials. If you run any of the 16k Belials,
Yeah,
it'll
that's
tie with
true.
those, or 16k Gillard Jugulars. Like, but the
Yeah, this
timing
was
of
just
it
going to be
is
like a
tricky.
call on what kind of decks people are going to be playing, but
Mhm.
BPO4 hasn't given me much hope for Kaiju decks yet, so this card might just take a back seat.
But
Although
it,
I will say, this card will be pretty silly in our pack battles.
yes, it's a good pack battle card. It's a card that just it's nice to have in general. Like, I'm actually a little sad that we don't have as many of those level 1 kaiju killers like we had from BB2. I mean, they were very strong. 10k
Yeah,
against any kaiju,
yeah,
good number. Now they've kind of toned it down to 9k against specific kaiju types.
yeah. Okay, and that's a great segue because I believe yesterday's reveal as a recording was Ultraman Trigger, a new style kaiju killer, which gets a BB grade increase for power or hazard types, going up to 9,000. Um, pretty. I mean, it's pretty okay.
I mean, on the bright side, Trigger also, I mean, it always becomes a 9k if you
Yeah,
have the Decker effect
yeah,
online. So even it not against power types,
yeah,
9k,
yeah.
that
It's just
works
nice to have a 9,000 power level one because you get the boost from Decker, and if you even play enough, because like I think the current version of Trigger Decker I have has only the only level one is the one that draws.
Yeah, then maybe we see a shift if people want to start playing more triggers, but at the same
Yeah,
time,
maybe.
it's still a top heavy deck, so
Yeah,
it's a little tricky.
it'll be interesting. We'll have to explore. So we'll move on to the rest of the triggers. Today's reveal was Ultraman Trigger Double R Scene Searcher. So now Trigger has two double rares that have effects, which is always very strong. But I mean, for at least from a Trigger Decker standpoint, I don't think the scenes are really stuff that you are dying to get. And
It's
yeah,
it's still kind of interesting because one, this opens the door for trigger other decks. Like
yes,
if you want to put trigger
100%.
Mebius together, Scene Searcher is always what you would want. And then there are definitely, like, I was thinking about our matches where turn two, like you've often played a trigger in lane 1 as a triple,
Mm-hmm.
and that level 2
It just
doesn't do
doesn't do
anything.
anything. Yeah,
Yes. Well, now you can maybe get a scene, which is
yeah,
maybe what you'll need. At the worst, you just lock me out of, a scene
yeah.
we win turn 3. So it's a slight
I agree with you, but I also
upgrade, but
worry that like the random mill five that doesn't grab ultra heroes like just mills the decker that you need more than a scene.
yes, there's still going to be that. So I mean, you can't go wrong with having a scene searcher for every hero.
I agree about that. So actually, there is one other fun thing to note about this one that we've never seen before. Can you spot it?
I mean, it is a power type.
That's it. We've never seen a power type scene searcher. We've seen armed, so the arc one
Yes, yep.
is armed, but for the most part, all these guys are basic, and I think that like knowledge might help you in some certain matchups, basically. Anyway,
Yeah, yeah. There's
let's
going
stop
to be
let's
something
stop
too.
stalling. I don't know. I feel like there's not that much to talk about this. The
Yeah,
real juice is
one
the
more.
triple rare trigger. Look at him with his sword. And this one is basic type, a double or triple effect. When this character enters play, you can give a single ultra hero plus 3,000 and a double ultra hero plus 2,000. And it's just pretty solid stats with 12,000, 17,000. I don't love the 12,000 double, but like 17,000 is
But he can
respectable.
bump himself as a double, so
Yeah.
that's so
A
important to think about.
14,000 double
It's a
is
14,000.
respectable. Yeah. So I think this is a fantastic card. I racked my brain a lot how to try to play with others, but I think for me it's just going to be a Decker trigger deal. How about you?
I think it's a crazy card, and there's maybe two schools of thoughts. One will be in Trigger Decker. I'm still
Yeah,
wondering what is the best turn to play it. That'll be something to really test out. Is it better
Yeah.
as a? You either play it as a triple or a double in a Decker deck. You either use this as your other triple to activate Decker, or
Yeah.
you're just playing singles at the end of the game. However, this one you would need to play it as a double, so you lose the bump.
Mm-hmm.
You could still play it as a 12k single, but you'd want to play as a double so you can give itself a 14k bump and that other 3000 bump.
Yeah.
But then I'm really curious to see how this plays out in matchups, just because
Mm-hmm.
if you play it early, it's probably not going to get value out of it likely.
Right.
It'll probably be playing it later, but then you have to hold on to a trigger level 2. You do have a card advantage, but it's something to keep an eye out for. I'm curious how to play against Trigger Decker now, knowing that this might be something they're holding for the end.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of like really interesting things you could do with it. So like if you've been following along the Gardeno game saga, you've heard this before, but Trigger Decker lacks these kind of burst options to keep it safe during the early game. When you maybe only have one triple, and you, like if you try to build up your triple slowly to get the most like advantage out of it, basically, then you open yourself up to getting like pumped out by like a Mebius kind of effect. So that has been one of Decker Trigger's weaknesses. I think this card solves it a little bit and also gives it a really good like late game play. Like if you can play this as a double on maybe lane 4 or something like that. And so that's coming in as a 14. It's bumping probably the previous lane from a 13 to a 16. And then you got your 2 triples. Like that's a pretty nice power move there. But I think you can also do some like really you can probably also do some really cheeky like trigger specific kind of win cons here where maybe you kind of surprise your opponent with a 1-2 double in lane 2, and then on the final turn you can play 2 of these, one as a double, one on the triple, and it'll boost your double up to a 16,000.
That'd be terrifying.
Yeah, and then you have another card which I don't know might not be a trigger but could be something else. Maybe you're playing Arc and you can play like Arc to the Future, and then you get another 2,000 to put somewhere. So you could have like 18, 17, 18 or something like that. So I think it opens up some options for playing it by itself. And
I
yeah,
think
it'll be interesting.
it might be predictable, but a lot of new things you could try doing too, like that 14k double trigger. If you play that, even if you play that turn 2 randomly,
Yeah,
you later play this one, and that turns into a 17k single.
yeah,
Later,
that's true.
and if they're playing a 16k triple there, I mean, hopefully they would see it coming, but
Yeah.
but it's still hard to work around if you
That's
set up
true.
a 16k triple and then you kind of do some cheeky strategies. It opens up a lot of different potential, which is going to be really interesting to see how you play around this.
Yeah, it's definitely going to make Decker Trigger a much scarier deck, but I hope we see some other kind of partners for Trigger. But like really the only one I can think of is probably Ginga.
Yeah, so I think that was the other thing I wanted to touch on. Like any of the decks that benefit from playing doubles, I think even Jeed, Zeros, Gingas, it's still a 2,000 BP bump.
Yeah.
There are I think Zero Sluggers can work off of singles, right? So
Yeah.
if you match it up,
Zero
it's a
might be
13k
one.
single.
Yeah.
And then you with this, it's a 16k for a turn.
Yeah.
Single. That's enough you need to win. So
yeah, this actually could be a really scary one for Zeros, where like because you can do if you set things up perfectly, like you can have a level 1 Zero Slugger next to a ultimate Zero that you just leveled up, which double boosts it up to a triple, and then this one can give that one that boost a like +3, that single. They got double BP grade boosted +3,000, making it a 20,000. And then if it's maybe it's lane 4 and you have another double zero slugger in the front that's getting arm typed from the scene, that's going to get a 2,000. So this like the ultimate play here, I don't think it's maybe like that reasonable to, maybe a little unreasonable, but or unlikely, but that ultimate play there could be like you're looking at a 19, 20, 18, 17. So there's some interesting options. I think I'd like to explore zero trigger a little bit. Just thinking about that, you might have some really funky plays you can get going. Yeah.
So all in all, and that's what I would want to see for these type of cards. One is that it's not locked into only being Decker support. It helps Decker a ton, but you can also start mixing it up, put Trigger in other decks. I mean, Trigger still has the level 2 Scene Destruction. It's got mill 5 draw cards, and now you have a card that does BP bump, so you could use this in a lot of different decks now. And a Scene Searcher, like we just saw.
Yeah, and a Scene Searcher, so it can fit in more scene-based decks. Like really anything that can do like BP grade ups is now like a potential target for this. For this, being able to turn a single into double power and then give it +3,000 to make it probably like a 16 is that can spook some people for sure.
Definitely.
So I'm excited to see what people cook up with the Trigger, and I think that's all I really have to say.
Yeah, we'll definitely be putting these decks together, and once BP4 comes out, I'm sure we'll see a lot of Trigger Decker deck building.
Yeah. We'll be seeing a lot of that. I think I've been doing some self practice, so hopefully I have some new tricks for you next time we play.
Yeah, looking forward to it.
All right, thanks for tuning in with us to review the reveals for Ultraman card game. We'll see you next week for more reveals. Hopefully, we got a little baited last time, I think, with Ultraman Z, so maybe.
Yes, I think that should be, if they do these videos every other week,
yeah,
this upcoming week should be Ultraman Z.
Yeah, I think they did them every other week for a bit and then started doing them every week as we got closer. So looking forward to the Ultraman Z, and we'll see you there. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.